It's Thursday, August 15th, 2019. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here are some of the topics we'll be covering today. Your Google Assistant can now be used to send reminders and notes or to annoy friends and family. We'll get you the details on the update to Assistant-enabled phones, speakers, and devices. And the Sega Genesis mini reviews are rolling out for the latest retro gaming console. We'll talk about the first impressions, which games are available, and when you can get your hands on one. And the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, better known as DARPA, has their Subterranean Challenge competition starting today. It's incredible tech and probably the first step to Skynet. And we'll have some of our favorite interviews on this episode, including Paul Waby, the Director of Rail Systems at Texas Central, discussing their plans to make high-speed rail travel a possibility in Texas. All that and more on today's Digital Trends Live. All right, there it is. Savannah Sam.
Savannah Sam.
Savannah Sam. That's going to be your new nickname. I think it's got to be for the show.
I'm fine with that.
All right, and I did not know
Rolls
that.
off the tongue.
I did not know that Savannah Bananas was actually a thing.
Yes, I was not just joking when I was saying Savannah Bananas. It is their minor league baseball team.
Okay, well, see, we've learned something new today.
Yeah.
Or I learned something new.
You're welcome.
We always do here at Digital Trends. Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. This is our daily show here from Digital Trends, bringing you the trending tech topics of the day, news, headlines, interviews, discussions, and more, all while broadcasting live across a number of different platforms. We're on Facebook, Periscope, Twitter, Twitch. We're on YouTube. We're on LinkedIn Live. We're on Dailymotion, Apple News, 2 different mobile apps, a smart TV app, and at digitaltrends.com/live. And because we are there, we can take your comments as we go throughout the show. We are live here in Savannah, Georgia. And to start off, I'm Greg Nibbler, joined by Mr. Sam Slaughter. Hello, Sam.
Hello, how's it going?
Doing well. I like to see that you are from South Carolina, so you are acclimated. You're wearing a jacket and everything.
That is how we do down here.
This is how we do. All right. Well, it's impressive. I will say that.
It's also not very hot right now, thankfully.
It's very warm for me. It's very warm. But nonetheless, it has been great. So we've been down here all week long, and thanks everybody who's been joining us. You know, I've been having these live news segments, but then also playing some of our favorite interviews. We're going to be doing that coming up here just a little bit later on the show. But before we get to all of that, we need to talk about some news. And there are some trending news topics to get to, actually a lot happening today. First off is this. For those of you with a Google Assistant, there's now an update that will allow you to send reminders to other people, which is both great and kind of nefarious, I feel like. On
Yeah, I immediately went to the nefarious side of things of who I could start messing with. Yeah. Which is probably not the best way to go about it, but yeah.
But that's what you would think of. So to explain it, so how it works is that you'll be able to send reminders to people who are hooked into the same Google group that you're in. And they have some different information about walking through how you do that. But essentially, if you're paired up with someone, you have to give them permission to begin with. They'll be able to just blast reminders to you on your own device, whether it's a Home Hub or a phone or any kind of Google related device, Google enabled device. Mm-hmm. And that is what they're talking about. They're saying that this is going to be a great thing. Some of the examples, why they used the name Greg, I don't know in their examples. So
it's because you haven't taken the trash out in 4 weeks.
I clearly haven't taken the trash out, but it is kind of funny. That's what they used. I swear we did not plan that. I have taken the trash out, but this is a cool feature to some extent, and I want to know what people think about this. If this is something that you would actually utilize to send messages, they're saying it's a good idea. If you have even in some of their examples, like a roommate who doesn't clean up, you can send a reminder to them.
Whose name happens to be Greg.
Whose name? Why is it always Greg? So you can send reminders to them. You can also, they said essentially it's kind of like a new version of the Post-it note. What we're seeing.
I agree with it to an extent. I think that it can be useful if you and your partner, your roommate, whoever, have opposite schedules, perhaps.
Yeah.
You work 8 to 5, they work the midnight shift or whatever it is. You can leave notes like that, but I think it can also very quickly devolve. Because that is what I would want it to do.
Right.
Is just start messing with whoever it is.
Just blasting out messages to people. Yeah, that's definitely something I would think. You have to think, though, if this is coming out with Google Assistant, it's going to be showing up on other devices.
Oh, it's definitely going to, every one of them is going to do it within a few months, I feel.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't think this is going to end up being good for anybody.
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay, so we're in agreement on that.
When the first thing you think of is something nefarious, usually doesn't end up good. It's not like you can come back from that once you've started on
Once you've
that
crossed this
road.
boundary.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're already down that line. Now that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Well, that is what the update is. So again, this is rolling out now to Google Assistant devices, and they've been making a lot of updates lately. We've been seeing more features come out for the assistants, and yeah, this is just one more step down that line of where we're going to end up with this. I guess it's hard to say, but I think we're going to have more and more and more of that in our lives. They said that part of the features as well are that it would be able to recognize voices. So if you have that enabled, so if somebody walks in, they could in theory recognize that, oh, okay, it's Sam is there now. So Sam, here is your reminder, and it would pop it up just for you. You could also set it for different times. A lot of different ways that they're enabling this.
This reminds me a little bit of Dracula, where like you have to invite them in. But if you are in that Google group, then you can automatically, again, start messing with someone.
Yeah.
So the thing here is just don't have Google groups.
Yeah. Don't do it. Just don't get involved in it.
Yep.
Do you have a home assistant yourself?
We have an Amazon Echo and a Google Home in the house.
So you have both?
Yes, we have one plugged in at any given time though.
Okay, so you've adapted to the smart home.
Yeah, we
lifestyle.
use it for music mostly. So we can have it in the kitchen while we're cooking. We'll put some music on, and that's really, it's a speaker for us. That's the only thing that it does.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm actually surprised about that. For some reason, I just figured you wouldn't have one.
I have two. I keep one not plugged in.
Yeah. I mean, you have the one not plugged in, but still, that is still having one though.
I want my music while I cook.
Okay, this makes sense. Well, that is what the updates are. So these are rolling out right now. Again, this is for Google Assistant enabled devices. So that's phones, speakers, smart home hubs, all of that are going to now be able to have this feature rolling out. Let us know if you're going to be using that and what you'll be using it for, probably nefarious purposes. All right, let's continue on here. It is now time for us to do a little bit of Read 'em and Weep. And this is a segment that we have here every day at Digital Trends, where we take a look at some of the comments that come through across our many different platforms, and we answer them directly. Since we are here on location, we're going to be taking a look at them on my computer, but you will get to see them on your screen as we get those pulled up. But again, with Read 'em and Weep, this is one of my favorite segments.
It is what I tune in to watch every day.
It is.
Yeah.
For Read 'em, I do see you in the chat sometimes on there.
Yes.
Yes, talking about, usually making fun of me in some way.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know either. All right, let's pull this up here. So we're getting, again, taking a look at some of the comments that come through for Read 'em and Weep. What we do here every day on Digital Trends Live for all of you who tune into this show. Let's see. All right.
That one starts with, "Hey Google."
The first
Really?
one, yeah, I know, right? Okay, here we go. Billy Vondrasek, regarding this motorcycle jacket, has a built-in airbag that inflates when you crash. I can see myself getting off the bike, forgetting to disconnect, and then blowing up like a balloon. Awesome concept, though. Also, awesome visual that I'm getting for that.
Well done, Billy.
Yes, Billy, that's solid Facebook commenting that you have just done right there. Yes, I can definitely see that happening. That sounds like something I would do as well.
I feel it would be like a slightly delayed response where you would get maybe 5 feet away from the motorcycle, and then it just...
And then pop.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I could definitely see that happening. So that is so again, that's the motorcycle jacket. You can take a look at that at digitaltrends.com. Billy, I appreciate that comment. That was solid. That was a solid way to start it off.
Yeah.
Solid way. This is our last show here in Savannah, so I like that we started off that way. Let's see where else we go.
I'm reading these in advance, and...
Mr. Problematic. Boy, I bet it's just going to be a really nice comment that we have here from YouTube. Regarding U-Turn Orbit Turntable hands-on review, what an awesome way to review crap. F-testing, because why bother if the manufacturer said so and that's good enough? LOL, lazy. Wow, I'm shocked that somebody named Mr. Problematic would be so aggressive with their commenting. But you know, that's what we're getting here for the U-Turn Orbit Turntable.
It's not lazy like lazy though, so there's no exclamation point, which again is also lazy.
Yes. Yeah.
They're commenting a little lazy.
It's a little bit lazy on the commenting. I can agree with that. So what an awesome way to review. Yeah. Well, Mr. Problematic, you know, I'm clearly.
Also, they spelled because wrong.
Oh, they did. Oh, yeah. Well, see, there we go. So you're being problematic. So we've got that there. Mr. Problematic on YouTube. Thank you for that Lovely comment. All right, we've kind of gone both directions so
Yes.
far. Let's see
What's
what we
going to
have-
be next?
What is going to be next here on Read 'em and Weep, where we do read all of your comments. Okay. No tongue regarding Trump administration delays Chinese tariffs on select electronics until December. Obviously, they care about all the Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales. Get the money, or get they money. Okay, so delaying it until December. That's honestly probably exactly what that's for. Yeah.
Anyone with half a brain or feeling even mildly problematic would understand that.
would get where that's coming from.
Yep.
And again, we've got that article at Digital Trends too, if you want to read into that a little bit more. But that is essentially it. We've seen a lot of electronics manufacturers react to the tariffs and how things are going. We even had Caleb Dennison on talking about how televisions, the reason that they're so cheap right now is because companies manufactured a whole bunch of them and bought them all up just because they were worried about where the tariffs were going to go. And so that's kind of what is lowering the TV prices. So that, I guess, is kind of
now is the time to buy a TV, is what you're saying.
Now is the time to buy a TV. Yeah, he did say that. Like, don't even wait until he can wait.
I'll add it to my selection of electronics and keep one unplugged.
Yes, there you go. And just don't plug it in.
Yep.
Because that's the safe thing to do. But at least you have one. All right, well, No Tongue, thank you for your comment. Again, as we go through, read 'em and weep. Ari Hoflack on YouTube. Okay, regarding Bose Active Noise Canceling 700 versus Bose Quiet Comfort 35-2. Your reviews are consistently top-notch. Kudos for calling out the moaners and nasties. Thank you, Ari. We really do appreciate that. That's a solid comment on YouTube. You know, YouTubers are known for not being problematic at all.
No, never.
Never.
I've never had an issue on YouTube.
Never. Everyone is always kind, but you are an example of somebody who is kind. So thank you. Thank you for that. There's a lot of work that goes into those reviews, I can say that. Because that's probably either Parker or Ryan, I'm going to guess, one of the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, reviewing the headphones. And all right, I'll make sure that they're aware of that. All right, Mark. I think Mark has commented before on Facebook here. Oh, yeah, regarding this is how you cook with molten lava. Digital Trends. Come on now. If this was a lava cooking robot, it'd be way more interested, or I'd be way more interested. Please find a way to combine this new story with robots, then come find me. Okay. I mean, I can actually kind of agree with that.
I just don't want my lava cooked because I think it's like a hot pot or something where it's cooking itself consistently anyway, so I don't need a robot for it.
Yeah, okay, so you don't want the robot being involved in that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that lava with robots is a good idea in theory, but that actually, now that I'm saying it out loud, maybe that's not something.
No, so it's also going to tell you that you haven't taken the trash out.
I do not want a lava cooking robot telling me to take the trash out.
And then it whips lava at you. Do you see where this is going?
I can see now. That's a terrible idea, and I'm sorry, Mark. I'm going to disagree with you on that one. We should not combine them. But I do agree. Thank you for calling me. So, all right. That, again, is Read 'em and Weep, what we do here every day at Digital Trends Live, where we take a look at some of the comments that come through across our many different platforms, and we do thank everyone who joins us for that, because here at Digital Trends, we do read the comments, and that's a fact, because we do it every day. Sometimes we weep about them. All right. Let's continue on with some more news, some more trending topics as we're live here in Savannah, Georgia. And I am going to be taking a flight later today. And this is actually something I was thinking about whether or not I would want this. So this is coming from British Airways, where they're going to be testing out VR headsets for first-class passengers. Now, they're not the first airline to do this. Alaska Airlines had tested this out a little bit. I think maybe a couple other international carriers also were trying this out. But this is what they're going to be doing. So they said this was just yesterday that they announced this. Now, for the rest of the year, first-class customers on select international flights can watch in-flight entertainment such as movies, documentaries, and travel programs through custom VR headsets. Sam, you travel a lot.
I do.
Sam works for themanual.com, by the way. I guess we should clarify that. And since you travel a lot, let me ask you this. When you're traveling, do you think this is something that you would utilize?
I don't. Usually, if it's a long-haul flight, I want to have maybe like a glass of wine with my dinner and then try and sleep.
Okay.
But I definitely see for people who have issues with flight, if they don't like flying, if they get anxiety or something, I think it would be very useful. That being said, it's the people in first class who have the cushiest seats anyway already. And so the people who probably don't care, and if they have anxiety, they probably aren't worried about it because they've already got all the amenities for them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I can see where you're going with that aspect of it. Because this is already, the people who are in the cushiest spots.
I would totally do it just to experience it, but I think if they were able to implement that in Comfort Plus or whatever the economy,
to have it used for the entire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of things I would think about with it. Well, one, I mean, looking at the positives for the VR side of things, because they did say that this could also be for people with anxiety, and then some people get a lot of anxiety for flights. Maybe you're one of them, if you're watching. So this would be something where they could, certainly help out with that aspect of it. But this is also something where I don't know if I would want to be completely immersed on a plane. There's something where I would see that might give me more anxiety than not. If you had sound canceling headphones, completely immersed in this thing, I wouldn't be aware of my surroundings, and I don't know if I feel like that on a big crowded sky bus.
That's fair, yeah. The noise canceling, and especially, I mean, depending on what they put in the VR, like what you are experiencing, I think could also alter it. If it's like a field of daisies,
right?
Cool.
Yeah.
If you're like walking around and end up at a cliff somewhere, I think it could go wrong really quickly.
It's a whole bunch of screams as everybody walks to them. Ah! Yeah, that would not be a good idea. Not a good way to handle that. They are saying that, since it is going to be the first class ones, like right now they're talking about, from some first class customers traveling from Heathrow to JFK in New York. They'll be able to experience the trial that's going on, but that's a very expensive ticket in order to do that. But I think
only $8,000.
It's only $8,000, just to test out some VR. But I want to know what people think on that too. If that's something that they would be into. Because again, going back to the good side of it, the anxiety side, and for people who have issues when they're traveling, something to relax them, to calm them down, this may be a really great thing for them.
Yeah.
They said that part of the things that you would be able to do are they can create unique and memorable journeys for the first class customers. They can immerse them in a 3D world. And there's different things, there's also just the fact that you can watch a movie, which if you've never watched a movie in virtual reality, essentially it just makes you seem like you're in a giant movie theater. Yeah. It's pretty fun. It's cool. But I don't know if I could handle the complete lack of control of anything around my surroundings.
Do you think they'll get to a point where they offer like flight simulators for that, where you're sitting in row 2B or something, but you can pretend you're flying the plane, where we get back to pretending we're kids again?
Right.
Yeah.
And you have a little steering wheel in front of you.
If you make it through, you get a little pin at the end.
Right. Oh, well, see, now I'm getting more interested again.
I would do that.
This is something that I think I would want to do.
Captain Sam. Captain Greg.
Yep. No, everybody has to call me Captain Greg. But that is what they're working on. So I think you're going to see more and more airlines testing things out like this, though, because they've got to find ways to better that experience of being on a flight. There's a lot of people that do not enjoy the flight experience, and these are things that they could do to implement. I mean, right now we have our you usually on most flights you get some kind of an in-flight entertainment option, and I could see this eventually becoming something that's a standard issue.
I'm just waiting for in-flight therapy dogs, so I can play with a puppy.
Okay, now I like that idea. Yeah, where he's just a puppy gets up and down the aisle,
and then maybe you adopt it at the end.
Well, Sam,
Adopt,
I think
don't
this is
shop.
$1 million idea. Adopt, don't shop. Well, there we go. The Sam Slaughter platform, British Airways. If you'd like to contact him, he's right here in Savannah, Georgia. We can see if we can get that set up. All right, so that's one thing, though. This is, again, British Airways bringing in virtual reality into certain flights, first-class flights now. But you can definitely, I think if this works, you'll see it rolled out eventually to other options. I think it'll be kind of weird if you're on a flight and then walking around just seeing everybody with their visors on, but that may be the new normal. Maybe where we have to go.
I think that's where we're all headed anyway.
That's where it's all going to end up. All right, well, that is one topic you can read more about at digitaltrends.com. This next one is an interesting one. There's a lot to break down here to explain with this, but I feel like it's a trending story, and I feel like we need to let people know this is happening. So if you aren't aware, there is a department of the U.S. Department of Defense that is called the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. That's a mouthful. It's better known as DARPA. And DARPA is one of those agencies that works on really a lot of top secret tech stuff. Like the crazy far out there sci-fi things that you would see from a movie, or be like, there's no way the government's working on that. They're the ones
they're working on it,
Yeah, they're the ones that are doing I interviewed one of the head people from DARPA a couple of years ago, and they were just talking about how we're working on mind control. We're working on ways to implant sensors into brains. And then that,
no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. Like, these are some things that we're working on. We're exploring this. We want to see how we can upload brains into computers. I mean,
if
this
they're
is exactly what he's
telling you that means they are years into the research and they know some stuff that they still can't tell you.
For sure. And
Have you been implanted?
I don't know. Actually, I'm not really entirely sure. But I don't think so yet. But maybe after this story, maybe after I just revealed that from the public interview. So here's what's happening. So DARPA is having something called a subterranean challenge. And essentially, it actually starts today. So it runs from today, August 15th, through August 22nd. And they've invited a number of different international robotics teams to compete in this. The way it works is that this is set up in an subterranean challenge. It really is. It's an underground obstacle course that's set up basically like a mine or a collapsed mine or a series of tunnels underground. And the goal is to have a robot be able to navigate that with little to no human interaction.
I think it's great. I mean, with mine collapses in general around the world, like this can revolutionize and speed up the ability to save people.
Absolutely. And that's what they're aiming this for. So they're saying that this is for that, for like emergency situations, things that are too dangerous for humans, things that where people could get hurt. That's what they're going for with it. And a couple of other things. So entrants in the contest include the likes of Cerebrus, which that name alone, Cerebrus, you know what you're getting for that. But that's collaborative walking and flying robots for autonomous exploration in underground settings. That is another big mouthful, but Cerebrus. Wow. Yeah, that's one of them.
I just put that together. That was an
That's
acronym.
all one thing. Yeah, collaborative walking and flying robots for autonomous exploration in underground settings. That's who I work for. And CoStar, collaborative subterranean autonomous resilient robots, and a number of other ones. Animal is going to be one of them. That is one of the ones that we've talked about before here on Digital Trends. One of the four-legged robots that kind of looks like a robot dog.
Yep.
Yeah. Terrifying. So that's going to be one of them.
Or a savior at this point.
That could be too.
That would be the first thing you see after being stuck in a collapsed mine is that dog walking up.
Yeah, that's true. If I haven't gone completely insane by that point, I'd probably be happy about it, or I'd just go crazy really quick. But regardless, that is what they're working on. And I think this is a good sign for robotics, just to see where, and looking at it from the getting rid of the, again, the nefarious side of things. Talking about this, I think that is a really great thing. If that can help people, that can help save some lives. Because like you said, with mine collapses, just look at what happened in Thailand. When that happened, just trying to rescue those kids. Yeah. It was a tremendous technological challenge to get that. Yeah. And if you could have a robot that would be able to do that and somehow bring supplies even, that's huge. Yeah. So that's what we're looking at with it. So the tunnel, it says the tunnel circuit is the first of 3 events. So there's going to be more along this lines, and eventually what the goal is there's going to be a winner. Will be crowned in August 2021. It's going to take home $2 million of prize money. So it's kind of a reward for doing that, and since you have all these different teams working on it, you're going to see more and more competition. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I also want to be at the happy hour at the hotel after a day of competition. I want to know what those conversations are like.
Yeah, what the creators of these robots, what they talk about. That would definitely be an interesting conversation. Maybe if anyone would like to join us here on Digital Trends Live too, have a conversation right on here.
Perhaps bring a robot dog.
In studio? Yeah, that would be great. So that's what we're talking about. So they said, creating these robotic systems that are able to navigate effectively underground, whether in human-made tunnels or natural cave networks or any kind of natural disaster. Pretty cool. That's what we're looking at with that. So you can check that out at digitaltrends.com. Let us know what you think of the DARPA Subterranean Challenge. All right, final thing that we want to talk about here before we'll give you a little rundown of what our interviews are going to be today, because we've got some really great best of interviews. This is something that I feel like a lot of people out there are going to be very excited for, and that is that the Sega Genesis mini console is now available for pre-sale. This is the latest in the line of all of these gaming platforms coming out with their retro gaming consoles, mini versions. You have the Nintendo Classic. That was
SNES.
one. The SNES. Sony came out with theirs. and now we have Sega with this. Sam, let me ask you this: did you play Sega at all?
Sega Genesis was my first video game system.
Oh wow!
So when I got to see this news, I got very happy. Like obviously there are emulators and everything out there, but
Yeah.
the ability to have all 42 games in one space made me childlike glee. For a day, at least.
Childlike glee. For one day, that's all Sam allows himself. So
One a
there-
year.
So there are 42 games in it. The price, it looks like it's $79.99. It comes with 2 3-button USB controllers that are apparently very, very solid, like replicas of the original. Let me ask you, I'm going to get some more details here for everybody too, because I want to know what people think. What game was your favorite one off of Sega?
It has to be the game that I got. It was Streets of Rage 2.
Streets of Rage 2.
Yeah, that was the first, my first video game, and so those childlike glee moments have been imprinted. But also, Street Fighter 2 is on there, and to have such a classic fighting game that has really paved the way for so many other games.
Yeah.
For what, 50 cents, basically? If you break down the 42 games, $80. Numbers are not my thing.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Yep.
We'll let everybody else. We'll let the ad wizards figure that one out.
25 cents, maybe. $4. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, that aside, there's a little list of some of the games that you've got on there. So there's Echo the Dolphin, which I'll say this: I never had a Sega, didn't have that, but I did have friends with one, so I did play Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yep.
You know, that was certainly one that I played. You have Echo the Dolphin. You have Castlevania Bloodlines, Space Harrier 2, a bunch of classic ones. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Ghouls and Ghosts, Alex Kidd and the Enchanted Castle, like just a list of all of these games. Tetris as well is going to be on there. But
that wasn't even on Sega originally, as far as I remember.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really recall that being on there either. Oh, Golden Axe? Golden Axe is amazing. That is a fantastic game. Now I kind of want one. That actually, just when I saw that on the list, that's just what changed my mind.
And I mean, Virtua Fighter 2 is also there. Another, not my favorite fighting game, but it was one of the first, 3D games that Sega was playing around with, as far as I remember. And so to have that there, I'm sure it's not going to be as great now, because we have the technology that we do, but to have those sort of seminal games on there, I think is a really good move on their part.
Yeah, I mean, and this is big just to have Sega put something out, because the last time they put out, according to what I'm reading here, the last time they put out any hardware like this was the Dreamcast in 1998.
It's been 21 years.
21 years since they last put some actual hardware out. That's some actual meaningful hardware. That's kind of crazy. So we'll see where it goes, but it's $79.99, and I think that's actually $20 less than Sony's PlayStation Classic, which was $100.
Yeah, they've got my money. I mean,
you're already ordering it.
Yeah.
Well, the pre-order's on right now, so you can order it now, and it's actually going to be coming out. I think a lot of people figured it would just be in the fall, but it's actually going to be September. So it's going to be coming out pretty soon that you'll be able to get this.
I think the big thing will be if they can manage to keep enough in stock.
Yep, that's going to be
especially
key.
coming up to Black Friday and all that.
If they know, what the anticipation is for demand, if they anticipated it right. Because that's the thing with a lot of these retro ones, as we know, they don't make a ton of them, and then they just say, okay, well that was it, we ran those out. And yeah, there's emulators that you can get and still play some of these games, but there's something about playing it on an actual console.
Especially with the controller, that 3-button, solid controller.
That really is key. But that's what's going on, so you can check that out at digitaltrends.com as well. And I want to say thank you to everyone who's been joining us here all week long as we've been broadcasting from Savannah. Tomorrow we're going to be back in Portland, so we'll have our regular show in Portland, Oregon. We'll be traveling today to get back there. But since we're down here in Savannah, Sam, thank you very much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And Sam,
want to go catch a Bananas game?
Yes, we'll go watch some Savannah Bananas after this. But before that, though, we have to play some interviews for you here, if I can speak anymore in the heat. Here is what we've got. So coming up on today's show, in just a little bit after this break, we're going to have Paul Waby, the Director of Rail Systems at Texas Central High-Speed, talking about high-speed rail. So talking about bringing that to Texas. I am a big fan of high-speed rail or anything that can speed up travel, so I'm certainly on board with that. We'll have Ben Simon, CEO and founder of Imperfect Produce, a really great company that's figuring out how to get, that produce that gets wasted, all of this wasted food in our food systems. This is someone who's trying to solve that problem. Very cool. And Alex Lieberman, CEO and founder of the Morning Brew, just talking about their platform and that really incredible way that they grew it and what they do. And Alex is a great interview, so really excited to be playing that one as well. And these are just some of our favorite interviews that we're playing, but we have lots and lots of content at digitaltrends.com that you can check out. And just like every topic that we covered here today, you can find out more about everything right there. And we'll be continuing on. Take a quick break. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you so much for joining us. Here at Digital Trends, we like to talk about cutting-edge technologies and innovation in all kinds of different sectors, including transportation, how we can get where we want to go faster. How can we make that possible? And we've definitely got an expert to join us right now, and that is Paul Waby from Texas Central. Hello.
Hi, Greg.
Hi.
How are you?
Doing great. Thank you so much for joining us. Excited to talk about all of this. I want to talk about specifically some of the things that you're doing in Texas. But before we get to that point, I thought maybe we could get kind of a broader picture. You've been in this industry for a while. Where are the fastest commuter trains in the world right now?
Well, I think the fastest high-speed systems, it's a constant race between the Europeans, the Chinese, and again with the Japanese. Speeds for what I would call steel, wheel on steel, so steel rail are now exceeding 300 kilometers an hour, which is over 180 miles an hour. And there are systems up at 200, 210, 220, 230. But of course, there are existing maglev systems in certainly operational in Shanghai at the moment, which takes those speeds even higher.
Could you give just a definition for anybody who doesn't know what maglev is and why it can make transportation so fast and make us get from one place to another so rapidly?
So the difference, obviously, between maglev and standard high speed is they use magnetic induction motors, and the train is effectively floating. It's not touching anything. Power is used to lift the train. The train remains on rubber wheels for a period of the time, and then as the power increases, the train lifts up and effectively floats. It's not particularly good for systems that require a lot of passengers because the weight-power ratio and the costs of those systems can be very high. And that's why most countries, like Japan, the pictures you're seeing now, and much of Europe and other places in Asia, we're working on the most efficient steel wheel on rail-based systems there are, which is a good balance of passenger numbers, efficiency, and safety.
What is the state of currently in the United States when it comes to high-speed railways, and how fast are we going for those?
Well, under the U.S. definition, there are parts of U.S. rail, the Acela trains in the Amtrak Acela trains in the Northeast Corridor, for periods of time, quite short periods of time, they exceed 150 miles an hour.
Wow.
Under the European definition, we tend to consider high speed above 160 miles an hour. Certainly 180 would be a more standard definition. As it stands today, there are no bespoke high-speed rail systems of that type in the US. Obviously, California is in process of constructing a sort of cut-down version of their original plan. But the Texas approach is a bit different because obviously we are connecting two major cities in Texas and using a much sort of proven technology, a bespoke proven system, as it were, in respect to the Japanese Shinkansen system.
But I think that's interesting you bring up the Japanese Shinkansen system because I want to talk about that too, with the bullet trains. But talking about Texas Central, let's kind of walk through what your initiative is there, what you're trying to connect, how fast people can connect right now. I believe it's from Houston to Dallas, and how fast you think it could get to with your high-speed rail system.
I mean, obviously, there are roads. The I-45 connects Dallas and Houston. Quite a small two-lane highway for much of its journey. I've driven it many times. Can take 4 hours, 4.5 hours, or much worse if there's heavy traffic. And then, of course, there are a number of flights which connect Dallas and Houston. But of course, you've got to get to the airport. You've got to get through security. Then you're somewhat subject to bad weather or delay. Our system, which is about 300, I have to speak in metric, 380 kilometers long, will connect Dallas and Houston in a little under 90 minutes. We'll open the system at 186 miles an hour with a plan to progress up to 205 miles an hour.
That is,
but initially at 186.
That is so fast. That's really amazing. Just how rapid you would be able to get from one place to another.
Well, and the benefit, I think, for Texans is, I mean, obviously, there are plenty of business travelers, people that make these journeys regularly. But, you know, for me, and obviously I'm a particularly enthusiastic train geek, the idea of being able to get on a train in Dallas at 5 p.m, go to a game, maybe at Texas A&M or down into Houston, have dinner with friends, and then get back to Dallas before midnight. That's something, in reality, you cannot really do at the moment. So it certainly brings these communities together. And with Texas, especially Dallas DFW being, you know, the latest census records came out yesterday, one of the fastest growing cities in America, and the Houston Metroplex being so large, you know, we're really talking about connecting two cities of 6 or 7 million people on each end in terms of the metroplexes. And so Dallas, Houston, because of its relatively simple geography and simple geology, is an ideal place, probably the most ideal place to kind of bring in the first true high-speed system into the U.S.
It's really exciting. Actually, I have some questions for you, too, just about expanding that. But going back to what you're talking about, just some of the other things you mentioned, people who are in business, traveling, you know, other than getting places quicker, what are some of the other societal benefits for communities with rapid transportation and quicker ways to connect with each other?
I mean, I was part of the team that built the Taiwan high-speed rail, which was the first instance of Shinkansen overseas. And obviously, in the beginning, there were the naysayers and people who didn't want. You know, obviously, building a high-speed rail system is effectively cutting through the land and can be complex. But since that railway's been built in the last 10 years, it's seen a stock change in the behaviors of the people. It's seen a leveling of things like house prices and land prices. It's enabled people to live outside of cities, in more rural communities, and commute into work. I think if you asked anybody in Taiwan now, you know, if they could go back and say we don't want high speed, I think it would be 99% would say no, we should have built it 10 or 20 years earlier. And I think that's true of many places in Europe, and even of China, who have just obviously finished a mammoth network of high-speed trains networks across across a huge geographical spread.
I think you're right. I don't think anybody would ever, once they have it, say no to faster speeds. Once it's there in front of you, once you can get where you want to go that much quicker. What do you think some of the obstacles are that you're overcoming right now to expand this in the United States? And maybe why has it taken this long?
I think... and I'm speaking obviously as a British person, and I have a different perspective maybe. I think there's a kind of a background of independence in America where people, you know, if you go back a couple of hundred years, they had their own horse and they wanted to go from A to B, they got on the horse and they went. And then as the motor car developed, this idea that you owned a truck or a car and you could drive to where you wanted when you wanted. I think generally, apart from maybe on the East Coast and the West Coast, there has been less reliance on public transportation, which is strange in some ways because the US was a pioneer of railways. You know, undoubtedly, it developed through the late 1800s and early 1900s a massive network, which has now mostly been turned over to freight railways. And because of that, I think it's difficult for us to persuade Americans sometimes the benefits of this. This being an important project and something that is slightly simpler than California in some ways due to its geology and geography. It enables us to show people the benefits. And I think once we built the first one, I think lots of mayors and governors of other cities and states around America will say, you know, look at this, look at the benefit, look at the economic benefits, look at what it's doing for these two cities. we need to think about this. And I think we are really pioneering this. And I think because of that, the federal complexity, the state complexity, the fact that we have to deal with utility companies, existing roadways, and many other stakeholders, it's going to take time. But I think once you've popped the cork on the first one, I can imagine the US then saying, let's go, let's do it.
I agree. I think once people get a taste of it, or once they get to try out, that kind of a system, and realize that those faster connections just make such a difference, and that you can accomplish so much more with that kind of speed, I think that's going to make a huge difference for people once they see it in action.
And all the people that we speak to, I mean, obviously I meet a lot of people as part of my work. I'm on vacation in England now, but I normally live in Texas. The business people that have been to Europe and Japan and have used these high-speed systems, that you don't need to persuade them. They're already saying, why isn't it built? Why didn't we do this 20, 30 years ago? But it's an interesting place to build a railway.
Well, Paul, I really appreciate personally what you're doing, and I think it's of such a benefit for all of us. The more that you can get this out there, if you can get this done with this perfect example, we can see other cities doing it. How far out are we from having the system there?
Well, I'm leaving England in a few days for Japan, and we're about to sign off the final specification of the trains and the signaling system, the control systems, communications, most of the technological systems. All things being well, with the federal work that's going on at the moment, we're going through the final environmental process and other things. We could start construction as early as later this year, or we could start early next year.
Wow, that is really exciting. Can't wait for it to get done. I will fly down there just to ride on this, because I think it's so cool.
You're welcome. I will personally take you on for a trip.
I will take you up on that, Paul. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you so much for joining us here at Digital Trends to talk about this, and really, really exciting seeing this innovative technology and how rapid transportation can come to the U.S. and what it's going to do for us. Paul, thank you very much for joining us.
You're very welcome.
We also have our New York studio, and that's where we're going to be heading directly, actually. We've got Jeremy Kaplan, our editor-in-chief, standing by with Ben Simon, the CEO of a company called Imperfect Produce. Really excited to hear about what they're talking about. Jeremy, hello.
Good morning and happy day after Earth Day. And a reminder to you that Earth Day doesn't end on the 22nd. It continues throughout the entirety of the year. So what do? You can say, well, I was doing all my stuff yesterday, I'm through. Or you could think about today as the first day of the rest of the year, the rest of your life. How are you going to change your life? What are you going to do differently? You know what? I've got a guy that might have some ideas for you. We're joined today by Ben Simon, CEO of Imperfect Produce. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jeremy. Excited to be here.
And happy day after Earth Day.
Yeah, every day is Earth Day.
I love it. Me too.
Yeah.
I have the exact same thought. So before we get into your exact company and what you guys do, I think it might be easier to start at the beginning.
Sure.
Let's talk about food waste. Let's talk about what happens on farms.
Yeah.
How much produce is going to waste just because of farms?
A lot. So about 20 billion pounds per year of, it makes me do that all the time, every time I say it. But yeah, it's an immense amount, 20 billion with a B, pounds of ugly fruits and vegetables go to waste every year. And they're perfectly good. And the main reason is they're just a little bit ugly, or they don't look quite right. So
well, hang on, define ugly. Because every zucchini is beautiful in its own way.
Yeah. So size issues is one of the most common things we see. It's too big, it's too small. A clementine could be a millimeter too small to make it into one of those 3-pound bags that you usually
That's
see.
very particular.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then scarring is super common. It could be a pear that was growing on the tree, and the wind started blowing, and then it rubbed against the branch of another branch on the tree and created a scar on it. But it's, and stuff like that,
no good
totally
for
surface
consumers.
level. Somehow the grocery stores have deemed that. And shape issues as well. So those are some of the most common things we see. But again, totally surface level stuff and perfectly good to eat.
And those regulations or requirements, those come from grocery stores? They want to shape exactly what the experience is like for a consumer?
Yeah, that's right. They come from grocery stores, and it's a result of them perceiving that their customer base that's coming in the doors subscribes to this sort of cult of perfection. So feeling like, okay, if I as a grocery store am going to stock my produce section with mismatched, funky looking fruits and vegetables, maybe my consumers would think I'm some sort of second-rate place. And if you think about it, the produce section is the first section you walk through in almost every grocery store. And you want that sort of bright, shiny experience. But the damage that's happening on the back end of that's created is often unseen. I mean, I talked to a bunch of grocery stores and their sustainability officers and stuff like that, and they're completely unaware. And then the same month, I'm going in and doing a farm tour throughout the Central Valley of California, and I'm hearing from the growers anywhere between 15 and 35% of their crops are getting rejected from the grocery store and going to animal feed, landfill, being tilled under, or just compost.
So Ben, you've got a solution to this problem, right? What's the answer?
Let's talk about the solution. So Imperfect Produce formed 3.5 years ago. We're a sort of triple bottom line business, so to speak. And we basically recover this produce from 200 farms around the country. We bring it to our pack centers, and we pack customizable boxes for our customers. And we drop it off on your doorstep each week as a subscription for 30% cheaper than grocery store prices. Started in SF 3 years ago, have really blown up since then. We're now in 18 markets.
Oh, that's
great.
great.
We'll be in about 30 by the end of the year, opening up a new one every 3 weeks or so. So, the movement is really taking off.
Is there a new market that you want to reveal, or something coming up that you want to talk about? Is there?
Okay. So we've got Philadelphia coming up next month.
Pretty
really
big market.
Huge market. We've got Boston the month after that. We've got Madison, Wisconsin, and also Detroit coming up, and a few more later this year as well.
I was really curious about what the invitation looks like to a farmer. Do you say, send us your tired, your poor, your ugly fruits waiting to be consumed?
Yeah, that's.
I guess they're already well aware of this problem.
They're aware of it. Yeah, it's a major pain point for a lot of growers. I mean, you can think about it, and I recently was connecting with one of our growers. It's a family farmer in California, and fourth generation grower. His ancestors were like some of the very first pioneering growers in California, growing fruit there, and organic grower. And he basically was telling me, like, he saw this issue growing up amongst his parents.
Okay.
Seeing that as they were running the farm, that it's tough as a farmer. You've got different seasons giving you different weather, things you can't predict, and it's sometimes hard to maintain profitability. And it just felt like such an sort of unnecessary evil to have the grocery stores creating this standard where you then have this massive amount of waste.
Which just leads to unnecessary waste. There's already plenty of waste going on in
There's
this
a
food
lot,
industry.
we got that covered. There's plenty of waste happening as it is at the consumer level. So as a company with Imperfect, we've now recovered over 40 million pounds in our first 3.5 years.
That's fantastic.
Thank you. And we've donated over 2 million pounds to food banks across the country as well.
That's great. Sounds like a great company. How do you guys evaluate which farms are part of the collective?
Yeah, so...
Or would you call it source? Which farms do you source from?
Sure, yeah. So we source from about 200 growers across the country. And it's a combination of organic and conventional, about 50-50 mix. It's kind of spread all around the country. I would say it is most concentrated in California, just because California grows half of our fruits and vegetables. And other than that, I mean, we look to try to give our customers a good range of products. So, each week in our customization window, you can choose from between about 60 different produce items. So we try to get a good mix. Like if we don't have a good apricot grower in one region, we might go for that. There's certain commodities where we're kind of tapped out. 3 or 4 potato growers and any more potato growers, for example.
Hang on. I can't imagine that there are requirements around what potatoes look like, because
there
every
are,
potato
yeah.
is ugly.
Well, you haven't seen some of the ones I've seen. I mean, sometimes they're massive, sometimes they're tiny, they're discolored, they have the skin peeling in different ways and stuff like that. Again, perfectly good on the inside. You can
Completely
make some mashed
consumable.
potatoes with it. You won't notice. But yeah, they
That's
come
crazy.
in all kinds of different shapes and sizes.
While I've got you here, I want to ask you
Yeah.
about another topic, because
Okay.
there's been this explosion recently talking about food and the changing
Sure.
nature of food.
Yeah.
There's been an explosion in the Beyond Meat space. So
Okay.
there is a
Yeah.
company called Beyond Meat. They make
Yep.
the Beyond Burger. And they're going to have an IPO. They're looking to raise $175 million.
Great.
The Impossible Burger, which we just chose as the best product of CES, actually, the big tech show. We said the best product was
Amazing. I
a
heard
meatless
about
burger.
that. Yeah.
What's your take on this stuff?
I love it. I love it. I mean, from a mission standpoint, I would say, we're birds of a feather. I mean, we're all fighting toward the same thing. So, when you look at the impacts of climate change and what things we can do as a society to fix climate change, Project Drawdown has made a list of the biggest things we can do, the highest leverage things. Reducing food waste is number 3. Reducing our dependence on animal agriculture is number 4. So we're right in line in those two things, especially being food system related things, right in line. So we completely think it's amazing, and as a customer of both of those brands, I think it's phenomenal. I mean, I shop for the Beyond Meat, the beef patties all the time. They're great. And then I also get the sausages that they sell. It's great. I get them in my own home. And then, yeah, I've gone out and gotten the Impossible Burger a ton of times as well. I mean, it's delicious. Both of those products really do. I wouldn't say that they're exactly like meat, but they're very, very similar.
Close
and
enough.
like I've eaten a lot of vegan protein, vegetarian protein. I mean, this is some of the very best. So it's pretty astounding what they're able to do with the
Yeah.
technology.
Well, it's the science too. Just some guys in a lab that are trying to figure out how do we get the texture exactly right. How do I
Right.
change around the chewiness of a particular food?
Right. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fascinating.
They've done a really good job with it, and super cool now. I mean, I know like Impossible Foods sound like I heard they're teaming up with Burger King, and it was White Castle recently and stuff like that. So excited that they're making it kind of more of this mainstream idea. It's great.
Well, burgers are good to look for, but if you're concerned about the direction this country's taken, and particularly the laws around around climate change and what's going on in that space, one thing one can do: sign up.
Yeah, imperfectproduce.com.
See this shirt
Check
right
us
here?
out. Save some money, fight food waste.
How much does it cost to subscribe?
So we always price the produce about 30% cheaper. So boxes are $12 up to $45, depending on how much produce you want to put in. And again, it's fully customizable.
I love it. New customer. I'm gonna go sign up.
Thanks, Jeremy.
I'm
Thanks
in.
for having me. Yeah.
A pleasure, Ben. Thank you very much for coming in. Great chatting with you. We're going to cut away to commercial real briefly, but we've got plenty more cool technology coming up just down the pipeline, so please stick around. We'll be back after this short message.
Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Broadcasting live every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. So hit that subscribe button wherever you're finding us. That way you get the notifications when we do go live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and joining us right now, we have Alex Lieberman, the co-founder and CEO of Morning Brew. Hello, Alex.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. So for everybody watching, I thought maybe we could just start off, kind of walk through a little bit of your history and why you decided to form the Morning Brew and exactly what it is that it does.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with what Morning Brew is. Very simply, Morning Brew's goals of business is to better engage the modern business leader with the business world. The business started back in 2015 when my co-founder Austin Reef and myself were students at the University of Michigan. So I was a senior at Michigan. Austin was a sophomore. We were finance people through and through. So we had no media or editorial experience whatsoever. But what we found through working with college business students is that they lacked a connection with legacy business content. And so our view was that if these students who are working incredibly hard to have careers in business aren't resonating with business content, there is an opportunity there to make something that is relatable, conversational, and engaging. So that's what Morning Brew's goal is. Traditionally, that's been done through one product, which is our daily email newsletter that goes out 6 days a week at 6 a.m. Eastern and gives you all the business news you need in 5 minutes. But we're at a really exciting juncture in the business right now where we're launching a number of other products as well.
That's great. I want to get into talking about those products as definitely. Let's talk about the newsletter itself. So you said you can get all the daily business news you need in 5 minutes. So what are some of the different things that you do, and how do you curate that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a really lean team over at Morning Brew, and specifically within editorial, we have 5 people now in the entirety of editorial. And just to give you some context, that editorial team is writing for, in our core newsletter, 1.3 million people a day. And the newsletter has over 40% unique open rate. So over 600,000 people uniquely are reading the newsletter each day. So it's an incredible amount of responsibility, obviously, that these editors hold. But basically, through a combination of qualitative and quantitative data, we have a good understanding of who Morning Brew's reader, which is the aspiring, affluent, emerging business leaders, the 28-year-old on-the-go young professional who's living in a large coastal city. We have a good sense of what they care about. We know whether they care more about consumer retail than macroeconomics, or technology and startups more than emerging markets outside of the U.S. economy. And so our readers pour through news for most of the day. And as you can see up on the screen, that's today's newsletter. And they have a pitch meeting each day, and typically the newsletter is written and set by 9 o'clock the night before. If anything crazy happens in the hours after 9 o'clock, generally one of our readers will catch it, and then it auto sends at 6 a.m. So as you can see, it's everything today from digital ad spend to with the impending Uber IPO on Friday, a lot of Uber drivers closing the app as a way to make a statement that they don't think they're being treated fairly. And so that's how we go about it.
How did you, I mean, the number of subscribers, that's absolutely incredible. When you started out, how did you get the word out about your newsletter? How did you grow that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, when we were pre-revenue and pre-fundraising, we obviously had to be pretty crafty with how we were growing the audience, since we didn't have the crutch of money to buy subscribers. So the way it started early on was actually before we were a daily email newsletter. It was literally just me writing a daily business roundup for the people that I was helping to prepare for job interviews at Michigan. And all I did was I took a Microsoft Word template. The core components are similar to what you see today: 5 to 7 daily business news stories, an interview question of the day, a stat of the day. And it was all condensed into a PDF that was attached to an email every day. And there was no website. There was simply a listserv that I was managing that people would ask me to sign them up for. So after about 3 months of doing that, over 2,000 people were signed up for this original Morning Brew. And to me, that in itself was clear. It made it clear that there was appetite for better business content, because the friction to sign up for it was effectively infinite. From there, when we launched the actual email product with a landing page and website, the 2 main organic growth drivers we had were our referral program, which up until this point is responsible for 25% of growth of our audience. So very simply, you sign up for Morning Brew, you get a unique referral link. As you refer other people to sign up for Morning Brew, you earn rewards. And that has been a massive driver. And the other thing is we started running a campus ambassador program very early on, where we basically have our top readers be evangelists and the voice of Morning Brew on their campus. And over time, as we've done paid acquisition and other partnerships, and also just as our company has aged, our demographic has aged as well.
Interesting. That's really fascinating. Going from a PDF to now, you're growing to this point, and you said you have a bunch of other products coming out or in the line, in the works. Can you talk about what some of those are?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if you think about Morning Brew, we have been incredibly fortunate to get 5 minutes of precious mental real estate in someone's morning routine, and we don't take that for granted. Obviously, the goal is we want to build trust with an audience where they have heart loyalty for Morning Brew as a brand. But as we think about it, the thing that we're often requested by our readers is, they say, we love Morning Brew, but it goes about a mile wide and an inch deep on general business news. They say, if we get really interested in a story, right now we click through and we end up going to another website that doesn't necessarily condense and curate and create the content in a way that Morning Brew does through the voice that you created. So they say, like, we want to go deeper on the topics our readers care most about. So Morning Brew is moving into kind of the space of creating a 2019 version of a publishing house of brands. So if you make the comparison to like a Condé Nast or a Hearst or a Meredith, we're effectively doing that in newsletter format. So we're launching industry-specific newsletters in the topics our readers care most about. We launched our first industry-specific newsletter a month ago, which is around emerging technology. So the business of technology is changing the future: AR, VR, cybersecurity, drones, robotics. Without any paid acquisition, that newsletter already has 75,000 subscribers. And each quarter for the remainder of the year, we're going to be launching other verticals as well.
That's fantastic. I think that's a really smart move to branch into that, and a very huge undertaking to go that route.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a bold move. But where for people who are listening, who are watching, how do they go about subscribing? What's the best places to follow Morning Brew? Let us know about that.
Yeah, so I think the most obvious is going to morningbrew.com, and right now, since the beginning, it's still just a landing page. You put your email address in. After you put it in, you start getting the newsletter at 6 a.m. Every day thereafter. If you want to follow us on social, we are especially active on Instagram, Twitter, and we're building up our LinkedIn activity as well. And then what I would say is, as you begin to read the newsletter, first of all, reply to the email. We answer every response that is sent to Morning Brew, and we love speaking with our readers. And then over time, as you see these industry newsletters come out, we would say that you should try out the industries that are most relevant to you to get a taste of if these are as valuable to you as a professional as our general newsletter.
Fantastic. And also, great job getting morningbrew.com. That's a huge win. That URL had to be hard.
It was, I would say, way less costly than brew.com. So we had to default for morningbrew.com.
Well, it seems like it's working out. And Alex, I want to say thank you so much for joining us to talk about this and bring us up to date on what you're doing, and best of luck and continued success.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
There we go, yet another show here from Digital Trends Live, and I want to say thank you to everybody who's joined us this week. We've been broadcasting live here from Savannah. It's been fantastic, and really appreciate everybody who joins us here every single day. So hit that subscribe button. Make sure you get the notifications every time we do go live. Shout out to Mike and Kelsey back in Portland. We'll be coming back soon. So Kelsey, don't you worry about that. We'll be there for you. And thanks to Jake, who's been actually running everything behind the scenes here in Savannah, Georgia, as we do this. And thanks to everybody here at Digital Trends and everybody who's out there watching. So we appreciate it. We'll be back in our Portland studio tomorrow with more Digital Trends Live.